think we'll kick off. Hello and welcome brokers and partners of Pepper Money to today's webinar. Firstly, I follow the AFL, so well done to the Doggies making the grand final, and congratulations to Melbourne and their supporters winning after a 57-year drought. Some of you might be aware that coach Simon Goodman was actually overlooked for a victory speech. I did read his final line in an interview, and that was, "This is us, this is who we are." Well, I'm Matt Taylor. I'm the BDM with Pepper Money in the commercial team, and I'm in Victoria. So today's webinar is Your Mind Matters, Improve Your Mental Fitness. So I'm excited to introduce the speaker today, Ben Robbins. Ben is a psychologist who holds a PhD in clinical psychology. Prior to his study and work in psychology, Ben played for the AFL for 10 seasons. Since finishing his sporting career, Ben has worked with a diverse group of clients, including corporates like Pepper Money. He's worked with educational facilities, worked in drug and rehabilitation and anger management, and also he's currently the mental health and wellbeing head of at St Kilda Football Club. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Ben and let's see what he's got to say.
Good on you, Matthew. Thanks for the intro. And welcome everyone to our session today. The topic is mental fitness, and hopefully there is a poll question that you can answer, because I'm interested. We ran a similar session last year, and we would like to just tell get an understanding of who attended the session last year. So if you could just yes or no, just give us an idea of where we're at there. And the purpose of the session is largely the same as last year, although we are dealing with a pretty different environment now. Most of Australia are in some sort of lockdown, or have been certainly over the last 12, 18 months. The pandemic continues. If you're in Victoria, don't bother looking at the news this morning, because there's not much good stuff out there. There's a bit of civil unrest around. And to top it all off, last week here in Melbourne, we had an earthquake. So there's a fair bit going on. And what better time really to be mentally fit, do we need to be mentally fit, than right now? All the tools and strategies we're going to talk about today, these are ideas that we've introduced to our players over the past 12 months. And while it's designed for pro footballers, it's also relevant for all of us, just normal people living normal lives, okay, and maintaining our mental fitness in our current environment. So we've got our result of our poll. About 88% of us didn't attend last year. So that's cool, because we're gonna dig into a couple of the same topics we covered last year, but also explore a few others that have particular relevance to what we're dealing with right now in our world. As Matthew mentioned, this is me. So I'm a psychologist, currently work with the Saints, and also I had a 10-year playing career in the AFL with North Melbourne and the Brisbane Lions. The point I'd like to make here is we all have different experience with tools such as meditation and mindfulness. Some of you may meditate every day. Some of you have maybe never have meditated in your life. I'm going to ask you that question in a second. But on the left-hand side here, me as a player, we were told to meditate. Come boys, it's time to go and do your meditation now. And honestly, I just thought, what an absolute crock! Like, what a waste of time. Why am I going to spend any time sitting around in a dark room counting my breaths? This does not make sense. What is the relationship between this practice and performance, between stress management, relationships, mental health, and all the other things that now I understand are related to a mindfulness practice or some other mental skills you can develop. But what I didn't have when I was exceptionally closed-minded to these tools as a player was a session like this, a why, understand what you're trying to achieve. So you guys will have that today. So I'll just ask, you're here voluntarily, which is a great start. That indicates you are pretty open-minded. And I encourage you to bring that open-mindedness to our session today. I think you'll get something out of it if you do. Okay, so our agenda, I just want to define what mental fitness is. So what are we talking about when I say we're going to develop some mental fitness? What am I actually talking about? We'll talk a little bit about stress. What is stress? And then finally, how do you keep yourself mentally fit? I want you to start thinking about how you can apply these concepts in your own lives, your family's lives, and the lives of those that you work with as well, given we're all here together in a professional sense today. All right, so let's just define this. What is this? What is mental fitness? So it's the ability to stay in contact with the present moment, regardless of unpleasant thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations, while choosing one's behaviors based on the situation and personal values. Okay. So a bit wordy, that definition, but essentially what we mean is that we're going to choose our response to our environment based on who we are, our values, our identity, the person we want to be, rather than thoughts and emotions which are transient, which are temporary, often change, and can produce behavior that's a long way away from our personal values. Now, you may relate to this if you've ever said or done something you regret when you're a bit emotional, right? You can appreciate this can sometimes lead to bad outcomes. And importantly, being mentally fit doesn't mean feeling good all the time. It means you're okay with not feeling good or with feeling bad sometimes. Here's how this plays out in my life. I was trying to think of an example for you guys, and I came up with this. About 2 months ago, I got a 13-year-old son. His name's Charlie. I'm going to talk about him a little bit during our session here because he explains a few things. Anyway, he plays the PlayStation. You might be familiar with this. If you're a parent, you possibly are. This is a game Fortnite. Anyway, about 2 months ago, I get a credit card bill, get it sent to me monthly, and I see that my son, Charlie, has spent $400 in one day on this game of Fortnite. Now, my immediate response is I'm losing my mind. I am really angry. And I straight away, as soon as I see that, I go find Charlie and I start absolutely giving it to him. Okay? Yelling at him. What the hell? I'm also a bit angry at myself. What sort of parent am I? These sorts of things. Now, once something is said and done, it can't be taken back. But while in that moment, I was a long way away from the person I want to be, my personal values. I'd allowed my emotion to override who I am, and that was now dictating my behavior. And this is mental fitness. It's the ability to accept the stress, accept the situation as it is, and then proceed forward based on who you are and who you want to be, not your emotions and not negative thoughts, okay? Another way of looking at this, and this is more for performance, this is how we explained it to our players. It's not the presence of negative thoughts or anger or anxiety that predict performance. Those things are going to happen when we're trying to perform, okay? It's the degree to which we can accept these experiences as part of elite sport, maintain our attention on the task at hand. And this applies to us as well, not just people playing sport at the elite level. Right? So if we're going through relationship issues, problems at work, getting sick, dealing with homeschooling your kids, whatever it is, these experiences are going to produce anger, anxiety. They're going to produce negative thoughts. In life, we can't avoid sadness, but we can choose how we relate to these experiences and then how much we let those states impact on our behavior. This is mental fitness. Or to sum it up really simply, bend, don't break. In the storm of life, think of natural selection. It wasn't survival of the strongest or the smartest. It was survival of the fittest. So let's talk about getting mentally fit. Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions as we go through our session. I'll start off here. What sort of exercise do you do? If you wouldn't mind just putting it into our chat box here. What do you do for exercise? All right, good on you, Brent, kicking us off. Goes to the gym, walking, good, tennis, running, yeah, PT, walking, gym, kickboxing, nothing, okay, hockey, rock climbing, good on you. All right. So that's great. Thank you for and thank you for your responses there. What do you notice about all of our responses there? What do they all have in common? Anybody got an answer? They're all, thanks, Travis. They're all physical. Now, I didn't mention physical there. I just said, what sort of exercise do you do? But we all immediately talk about what we do physically. They're about our body. But what about our mental fitness? How do you keep mentally fit? Of course, these things are related, but for most people, we don't do anything for our mental fitness. Some of us meditators, a few of you have commented there, thank you. But for most of us, we don't do anything. But here's the thing, there's only 3 things that you can train in life. Firstly, your body, okay, which you guys have all spoke about there. There's your craft, depending what your profession is. You go to uni, you learn skills as you work, okay? For us, it's our game plan. For us, it's our kicking ability. But then what about this third component, our mind? How do you train that? And think of your own life. How much time do you devote to your mental fitness in comparison maybe to these 2 other components? So that's what we want to talk about today. To develop mental fitness, though, we need to understand what stress is in the stress response and why we need stress. Stress is important, okay? So again, I'd like you to jump into our chat here. What causes stress? Okay. For you, what causes stress in your life? I'm going to pop something in to kick us off. All right. Okay, a lot of stuff about kids, work, family. Yeah. Money, health. These are sort of the big 4 things that people talk about. Okay. And the thing with all of those things we can't control, very good point. With most of those stresses, we have little to no control over them. Work, we're always got to work. Finances, unless we get a big inheritance, we're gonna have problems with our finances at times. Family, they're always around and they're going to be around, and friends, and health. Yeah, there's some things we can do to maintain our health, but there's some other stuff that's out of our control. So with all of our stresses, for most of the big stresses in life, actually, a lot of it is out of our control. What is in our control is how we respond to them. Not that we're going to experience them. We are going to experience them. It's our response that matters. And let's just go back thousands of years here and understand what stress is. This is really important. Okay, so back in the caveman days here, we've got a saber-toothed tiger that jumps out. It's going to attack this guy. What does our body do? We have a finely tuned threat detection system. It's called the fight or flight response. Many of you would have heard about this. And when that saber-toothed tiger jumps out and tries to attack our caveman there, our body prepares us for fight or flight. We get supercharged for a period of time. Okay, run faster, jump higher, we stand more pain, we bleed less. There's all sorts of really cool adaptations to help us with that saber-toothed tiger. But in our world, in our modern world, this fight or flight response is activated and getting activated regularly when there is no physical threat. Think about what causes this for you, because what you're looking at on the screen right now is anxiety, all right? It's stress. Think about what activates it for you, and you already talked about it in the previous slide, but getting called into the boss's office, public speaking, stuck in traffic, being late, homeschooling, all of these issues in our modern world our body reacts in exactly the same way as it has for thousands of years. And the thing is, when we're in this state, when we're in this fight or flight state, what happens to our brain? Our prefrontal cortex, which is where we do our thinking, our problem solving, our decision making, our logical thought, that shuts down, goes offline. And what takes over is the emotional part of our brain, or our amygdala, and something called the amygdala hijack happens. Like when I was talking to Charlie about his big fortnight bill. Hijacked by my amygdala. And now it's anger that's dictating what I do, not my prefrontal cortex. We don't think clearly when we're in fight or flight. And we do really silly stuff.
And there's Luca Colberry watching at the side of the road. What's he doing? What is Luca Colberry playing at? Oh, Luca Colberry, what on earth is he doing? I'm sorry.
Righto. So when we're in this state, we make bad decisions, or we certainly don't make as good a decisions as if fight or flight is not being activated. Okay. And so our brain has the most advanced threat detection system amongst any living creature. It helped us evolve to this point to deal with the danger of this world. It helped us evolve. It's incredibly important to our survival against physical threats. But our brain is operating in exactly the same way in a modern world as it did in this prehistoric world, where its only job was to keep us alive. And so here's what we need to do. There's a reason we no longer use phones like these, because they've become obsolete. Our minds need a software upgrade. We're using a very, very old operating system. We have a mind that responds to all threats in exactly the same way, fight or flight. But this is often unhelpful. We need to upgrade our operating system to manage what's happening in today's world. And this is what keeping yourself mentally fit is about. Just want to make this point. I talk to a lot of people at the moment about different ways to manage through the pandemic. Okay, and often one of the biggest challenges is, especially for parents, or if you're looking after your own elderly parents, where you've got other responsibilities, other friends, family, you're trying to look after everyone. You're trying to be everything to everyone because you want to do the right thing, which is a great way to be. They're important values. But when the plane is going down, the first thing that they tell you to do is put your own face mask on first. You've got to look after yourself first, because if you don't and you pass out, you're no good to anybody, your kids or anyone else. Okay, so these tools are exactly the same. These are designed to get your own mental health and well-being in as good a shape as possible. Then you can look to help others in your world. And so let's talk about some tools to develop mental fitness. And there's two categories of tools here I want to touch on, all right? And when I talk about tools, this is anything to adjust your psychological state, to help you manage, help you cope. There's these two categories of tools. Firstly, outside-in tools. Okay, these are what most of us are familiar with. And you go back to your first day on the planet. Day one, you're born. You feel distressed, you cry. You don't know why you're distressed, you just feel it. You're hungry. You don't know that, but you cry. What does mum do? What does your carer do? They feed you. Distress goes away. And from very early on in life, our first day, we learn that the way to soothe distress is to put something into our body. How does this play out? Outside in. So when we're distressed now, what do? Well, we might have a coffee. We might jump on our phone when we're bored. We're going to eat junk food, comfort food. We're going to gamble. We're going to drink, and we're going to take drugs. Because all of these things help us to cope with whatever emotion we're experiencing at the time. But there's a problem, obviously, which I'm sure most of you are probably across here. These things can become addictive if used too often, too much. So we want to develop some tools other than outside in. And one of the key inside out tools, and the one we're going to talk about mainly today, is our mindfulness skills. Okay, online shopping, absolutely. All right, good one. So mindfulness, when I say mindfulness, here's what people often think. Some sort of hippy dippy stuff or rainforest music, scented candles, whatever, whatever sort of experience you might have had with it or think of it. This is all fine to think like this. If this is how you relate to mindfulness through one of these methods, brilliant. That's not how I relate to it. I relate to it through a scientific approach. And really what we're talking about here is just controlling your attention. Taking ourselves off autopilot. Because let's talk about what mindfulness is. And in some ways, it's easier to talk about what it isn't, which is mindlessness. I'll give you some examples here. All right, driving your car. You arrive at your destination. Long day at the office. When we used to go to the office. Long day at the office. You get home. Pull into your driveway. I don't remember much about that trip. Here I am. I've made it home. I've navigated the road. But what have I been thinking about that whole trip? Don't know. Our senior, I'll give that away. One of our staff members during the year, after a bad loss, drove here on a Monday to Moorabbin. It's in the southern suburbs of Melbourne. And he missed his turn off on the freeway by a full 2 exits. He was about 10 Ks past his destination before he realized, I should have turned off back there 2 exits ago. Where's his mind? We don't know where his mind is, but what we do know is that it's not present. He's on autopilot. What about this? Do you ever sit at your desk? You got lunch, got a nice lunch there, last night's leftovers or something, you're answering emails, or you're checking your phone, looking through Twitter, sort of eating, same time, plate gets empty. You've eaten it, you've eaten it, but you have no recollection of actually doing it. For me, it's the big bags of salt and vinegar chips. I'm lying on the couch watching the footy, and half time comes around and that bag is empty, and I've eaten all of it. And I can't tell you how's that happened? Where was my mind? Well, this one, so this is my son, Charlie, as I mentioned. Now, he's a real talkative kid. And Charlie, he comes home from school, used to, when he went to school, and he liked to tell me about his day. But he would tell me about his day in just excruciating detail. So just everything that he's done for the whole day. All right, and I'm trying to pay attention. Yeah, and then we did this, and then we had a kick, and then we went into art class, and I did this painting, and I'm trying to listen. But we're busy. We're all busy. I've got things to do. I've got dinner to prepare. I've got that email I've got to get back to. And I get distracted. And maybe a text message comes on my phone, and I check it. And Charlie, still talking. Hey, Dad, are you listening? Yeah, mate. Sorry, what did you say? I just missed that bit. Now, if we have enough of those sort of interactions, what do you think eventually is going to happen? He's going to stop telling me about his day. And somebody that I want to have a great relationship with, clearly he's my son and I love him dearly. Our relationship gets hurt because of my inability to pay attention to what he's saying, to stay on task. But it's not my fault because our brains are not built to stay present. And this is what mindfulness is. It's paying attention to the present moment with openness, curiosity, and without judgment. Okay? And that last bit's really important. That's the attitude you bring when you are paying attention to the present moment. I can see you all there, like your bodies, right? In the cameras, I can see you. You are present, your body is. As to where your mind is, who knows? Off in the past, thinking about stuff that happened yesterday or the day before, into the future, planning, predicting. Now, really important, we need to be able to do these things. We need to go into the past and reflect and learn. We need to go into the future and prepare and plan. but we do it way too much. And it takes us away from the present moment, which makes it difficult to engage in life and really hard to be resilient in the face of adversity. And this is why we do it. And this is probably the most important slide in the whole presentation. This is our default mode network. This is why we go into autopilot. If we could put your brains under a scan as you're going about your business, we would see the default mode network activated regularly throughout the day. Notice what it's called, default mode. And anytime you're in the future, in the past, you're daydreaming, you're mind wandering, your default mode's in operation. We're going to call this our red brain. So if you were here last year, you would be familiar with this. Now, this is different for everybody. But what does it look and feel like? For some of us, get really irritated, really withdrawn. Often we see this in road rage, okay? Really angry. It's different for all of us, but have a think about when you're in this state where you're disconnected from the present, what's it look like for you? How are you thinking? How are you feeling? And then most importantly, how are you acting? How are you treating people in your world when you're in this red brain state? And this happens to all of us. All right, so if you follow the footy, you're only supposed to have 18 players on the field at any one time. Now, my job, the game day, I'm sit on the bench. And yeah, I'm talking to the players and stuff, but my sort of main job is to make sure we only have 18 players on the field at any one time, that they don't run on when they shouldn't. And during the year, here's what happened. I got distracted, something grabbed my attention, I looked away for only a moment, and one of our players ran on, and we had 19 players. Now, that should have been a free kick against us. Luckily, the umpies didn't notice. Okay, but if they had have, wow, the coach, he is not happy with me. He wasn't happy with me anyway, but distractions are a part of life, and this is our red brain. Okay. So we've got a brain that wants to wander, and the second part of this, the second thing we're up against is we've got a brain that's going to wander to the bad stuff, okay? Now think about it. We go back to those cavemen, right? To survive that world, you needed to get really good at noticing where's the danger, scanning your environment, where's the danger, locating it, finding it, and then dealing with it. And so we develop this acute sensitivity to negatives in our world, okay? Sort of happy-go-lucky, glass half full type of cavemen, they tended not to last very long in that world. Okay, their genetics didn't really get passed on. Highly anxious, careful, negative ancestors, we got their genetics. So we do this. And I talked about this last time I spoke to you guys, but performance reviews. I sit down with a coach and he tells me, Ben, this is really good, really good, really good. Just this one thing you did with our players is she didn't like it. Now, when I leave that performance review, where do you think my mind is? What's getting my attention? It's not the majority of good stuff. I disregard that. It's the one negative that they talk about, okay? When we engage in this, it impacts how we feel, okay? So that's what we're up against. This is our prehistoric mind. It wanders, and it wanders to the bad stuff. And we can talk ourselves into fight and flight.
Peter, you're struggling. You're letting the team down. I mean, you must know what they think of you. Frankly, you're just not good enough. You are a failure.
Sorry about the last minute catch up. There's this job I want you to put on. It's very similar to the one we have just got.
Is it you or anxiety?
When we are in red brain, remember, prefrontal cortex shutdown. It makes it really hard to take perspective, okay? Can we talk ourselves out of it? Sally, great question. Yes, we can. That's partly what mindfulness is about. But to talk ourselves out of it, you have to recognize you're doing it, okay? And remember, with your prefrontal cortex shut down, it's really hard to do that. And then just we're really conscious of time, but really quickly, mental health. One thing I want to say here, mental health, there's a lot of factors that contribute to our mental health, but one of the biggest is the way we think. Two biggest challenges in terms of these statistics, and these were taken before COVID. It's going to get worse. Depression and anxiety. What is depression and anxiety? Depression, thoughts of the past often. We ruminate over stuff that's happened that we wish hadn't or had turned out differently. Anxiety, often thoughts of the future. What might happen, what could happen, we catastrophize, we think the worst. Depression, thoughts of the past. Anxiety, thoughts about the future. Mindfulness. This tool to get us present. You know, I work with people in private practice. One of the first things we talk about, struggling with depression, anxiety, one of the first things we talk about is, are you doing any meditation, mindfulness practice? It is a frontline, well-validated, empirically supported treatment for these conditions. But it doesn't have to be a treatment. You can start a meditation practice whenever you like as a preventative measure against the statistics we see on the screen right now. Okay, so remember, we've got our red brain, wandering, daydreaming, stuck in our heads, past, future, anxiety, rumination. But we have another part of our brain, our central executive network. And anytime you're engaged in just one thing, one task, attention here, this is the part of the brain we'd see in operation, okay? This is our blue brain, okay? So how do you stay present? That's what we're going to talk about right now. How do we activate our blue brain more often? Because here's what we want to do. We want to learn the skills to shift states. Am I red right now? Yes, I need to get blue, okay? I notice I'm in red. I need to shift states to blue. And the beauty of these tools is once you've learned them, you can teach them to other people. I teach them to my kids. We have a common language. You can use it as an organization. You can use it with your colleagues. We have a common language here at the Saints that helps all of us make this shift. And you can do this practice whenever you like, but just asking this simple question. Where is your mind right now? Like right now, where are you? And then you can shift that from wherever you are to the present moment, whatever task you're engaged in at that time. Is the system you want to build. Recognize you're in red, get to blue. And then you go back to red, you shift back to blue. Over and over and over again. And the more you do it, and here's the takeaway, or the thing I'd love you to take away from today is this is a skill. It's like your forehand, it's like your putter, it's cooking a good meal, it's in the garden, whatever skills you possess, an artist, a musician, these are just skills that you can learn. The stuff we don't get taught at school, unfortunately, but we should. I'll quickly show, Gavin, great question. Red is not bad. Red's super important, but we spend way too much time in it, and that's when it becomes problematic. All right, so that's a really good point. Red is not bad. I just want to show you here this playing out in one of our games. Okay, and before I do, like this is about performance. Okay, but you apply this to your domain of performance, whatever it is: musician, artist, parent, professional. We need our guys to remain present. Now look what's happening here. We can see this okay. Sorry, there we go. Now, look at the state of the game. We're down by 8 points with just 4 minutes to go. This is a red brain provoking situation. Okay, we're in red because we're under threat. So we need to stay present, stay blue, stay in the moment. Now there's going to be a free kick paid here and it could go either way. What way is it going to go? Okay, it goes against us. And look at our guys now. They're all in red. They're all distracted by the umpire's decision. We need them back because as long as they stay like this, they're not playing the game. And every second counts. How long are they going to stay in red for? I'd like you to look at the guy in the middle of the screen with his arms outstretched now, okay? How long is he going to be distracted by the umpire for? Because we need him back defending. Come on, Dan, need you back, mate. Now he's back to blue. Okay, now he's back on task. And this is us too in life. How often do we get distracted from whatever it is we're trying to do? Be a good parent, be a good employee. Get distracted by our thoughts and emotions. For most of us, it's very, very regularly. Because it's a skill of attention control, mindfulness. Look at the stuff that's distracting our players. You know, stuff that gets says about them on social media. We've got the media that sometimes love us and then hate us. We've got opposition supporters. We've got goal line reviews, and we've got umpires. A whole heap of distractions in our world, and there would be in yours too. Okay, think of the things that distract you and pull you away from the present. And so this is a technique. This is a technique we use, our players use in quarter time breaks. You might have seen us doing this. This is the middle of a game against Port Adelaide last year, which we ended up going on to win this game.
Kilda team, that quarter time, look at that, just doing some breathing exercises.
Let's bring that back.
That quarter time, look at that, just doing some breathing exercises.
All we're trying to do there is get present. That quarter's gone, whatever just happened. We've got a new quarter to deal with. And you might be thinking, yeah, I'm not going to be standing in the Adelaide Oval anytime soon with 50,000 supporters screaming at me, hating us. Doesn't matter. You can use it in your life. I want you to look at these two brothers here. Watch what the big brother does for the little fella when the little fella is clearly in red, not happy. And now they go and get on with it. Why? Because he's shifted out of fight or flight. He's used his breath to reset, get present, get out of fight or flight, back to my blue brain. And now he's going to, whatever, play with his Lego. All right? So how do you build your blue brain? A number of you are asking some questions. Here's the main way. Mindfulness and meditation. This is why you meditate. Okay, I'm going to talk about the science at the end, but you know, for those of you that do meditate, and a few of you mentioned it earlier, this is what the myth is that meditation's about. Thinking about nothing, clearing my mind, thinking, you know, happy stuff. That's not what happens when you meditate. This is what happens when you meditate. Your mind doesn't stop thinking. Your mind is designed to think. Heart pumps blood, lungs breathe, mind thinks. We're not seeking to stop thinking. What we're doing is getting space, clarity, and awareness around our thoughts. Recognize where your thoughts are. This is the goal of meditation, okay? And we're going to have a crack at it right now. We'll only go for a few minutes. I'm conscious of time. But recognize what's going to happen here when you meditate. Let's start on the bottom left here. This is what's going to be happening in your brain. You're going to try and sustain attention on your breath. I'm going to ask you to focus on your breath. You're going to do it for a period of time. And depending how good you are at this skill, it might be a little while. But if you've never practiced, your mind's going to wander, and it's going to wander quickly, top left. Then you're going to, after a period of time, you're going to recognize your mind has wandered, and we shift into the top right. And then you're going to reorient your attention back to your breath, bottom right, for a period of time. And then it's going to sustain it on your breath, and then you're going to wander again, and you recognize it's wandered, and around we go for a couple of minutes. This is meditation, and this is mental fitness. It's building your blue brain. Okay? So if this happens, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. People think, oh, my mind wanders, I can't meditate properly. No. It's about mind wandering and then returning yourself to your anchor. All right, so let's have a crack at it. I'll get everybody to just sit up straight, both feet on the floor, okay? Nice and calm. Relax your shoulders. Close your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, just lower your gaze to the floor. And then honestly, I just want you to notice the fact that you're breathing. Just bring all your attention to your breath. I often think it's helpful to pick a spot, your nose, your chest, your tummy. Pick one of those spots and just notice the air as it comes in and then out of your body. You're bringing yourself from wherever you are, in the past, in the future, to-do lists, emails. You're just bringing yourself to the present. You're activating your blue brain. You're turning off red. You're getting blue. Only going to go for a minute or two. Remember that diagram I had up on the previous slide? Your mind's going to wander. Red brain's going to activate. You're going to be taken away from your task. All normal. What you are trying to do is recognize when that happens and return yourself to your breath. Okay, just in the interest of time, I'll get you to open your eyes when you're ready. Come back into our session. We didn't go for long there, only a couple of minutes. But if you've never meditated, that's a great place to start, just for a couple of minutes. Okay, and Samantha, you wanted about 40 times. That's normal if you've never meditated. And I'm going to jump into the science right now. Sorry, I'm going to jump into really quickly. We don't always have the time to meditate. It's one of the most common reasons why people say, I don't meditate because I don't have time. Okay, here's some ideas. It doesn't mean that you can't get the same benefits of blue brain. When you're drinking your coffee in the morning, you know, I have two coffees every morning out of my coffee machine, and I just neck those things. They're just functional. I don't taste it. It's just to get me going. Stop, don't do that. Just taste your coffee. Spend a few minutes over your coffee or your tea. Cleaning your teeth. I'm not sure about that one. I don't like that one. Walking your dog. When you walk your dog, just be there with your dog. And when your mind wanders, just come back to it. Notice what's happening around you, the sounds, the architecture of the houses, what your dog's doing. Just be present rather than what you've got to do when you get home. When you're talking to your kids, I've already talked about that probably enough. In the shower, this is the best one. Most of us shower, you know, sort of daily, probably close to, right? Except if you're working from home, maybe not, but most of us daily. When you're in the shower, here's what I do. I'm planning my day out. Where do I need to be? What's going on? What am I wearing? Stop. Just feel the water on your skin. Just be in the shower. And then when your mind wanders again, bring it back. When it wanders again, bring it back. Water on your skin. That's a meditation. Reading a book, listening to music. It doesn't matter what it is. It's bringing all of your attention to that task. This builds our blue brain. This makes us mindful in life. Okay. Yeah, be where your feet are. Henry, that's exactly what we tell our players. It's not part of this presentation, but in other presentations it is. Ways to actually anchor yourself. Okay, and this is a great question to ask yourself as you're going about your day. Is my blue brain activated? All right, really quickly, I want to touch on the science and then some time for questions because this is important. It's not just me sort of, who cares what I think? All I'm doing really is relaying the science to you guys, the science of meditation and mindfulness, okay? what we know is the brain can restructure itself and reorganize itself. This concept of neuroplasticity. If we think in a certain way, it becomes easier to think like that. If you worry a lot, you get really good at worrying. Equally, if you are present a lot, you get really good at being present. And this is what meditation does for us. It strengthens synapses and makes neural connections stronger that relate to our blue brain. And what we see when we put brains under brain scans, there's two main findings. First, people who meditate, we see more activation in their blue brain compared to people who don't. And then the second main finding, people who meditate, we see less activation in their default mode network compared to people who don't. And of course we do, because what's meditation? It's training this. And it's reducing our automatic, habitual time spent here, okay? And then here's the psychological benefits: calm, clarity, connection. I don't have time to jump into all of these. Two main points I want to make. We just did a 3-minute practice. I'm sorry to say, you're not leaving our session with elevated immune system functioning. Okay, this is not how it works. If you want the benefits, these are all the research benefits. Do you want these benefits? You need to commit to a practice, a consistent practice, like you would in the gym. Jump on the bench press, lift. You don't look down at your chest and go, this stuff's a waste of time. My chest isn't any bigger after one session. All right, we know you want to change your body. You want to get fitter. You got to go for a run, but not one run. You got to run 20 times, 50 times. I don't know, but consistent practice. Here are the benefits available to you. Science tells us this if you commit to that consistent practice. And I just want to finish here. This is Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor. He was in the concentration camps. And this is how he said he survived. It's not about what's happening around us. It's not our environment. It's our response to our environment that matters. This is how he survived it. And mindfulness gives us space between an event in our life and our response to make a different choice, to act in line with our values rather than our thoughts and emotions, which are temporary and, remember, heavily biased. And so I'll finish here. What commitment can you make? Just to yourself, all right? Because we do these sessions, people get really interested and oh wow, I think there's a place for meditation in my life. But then you're going to leave our session in sort of 5 minutes, and you're going to go back to your emails and your homeschooling and life, and this stuff gets forgotten. So what commitment can you make? What commitment can you make to change? And here's some ideas. Just notice when you're in red, and notice when you're in blue, and try to shift states more often. And second, start a meditation practice. Smiling Mind is a great free Australian app you can use that has all the resources you need to start a practice, continue a practice if you're already doing it. Yeah, I'll leave that one. All right, so thank you. So thank you for coming along. Sorry, I'm just losing my voice, been talking a bit here. The app is, I'll put it in the chat box now. It's called Smiling Mind. Okay, and so we've got a few times for a bit of time for questions. I'll quickly I saw a couple. When's the best time to meditate? I can't tell you. What I can say is this. Are you a morning person? Do it then. Are you struggling with your sleep? Do it just before bed. How long for? Again, I can't tell you. But if you are just starting a meditation practice, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Focus on your breath every day for 2 minutes. And then go to 3 or 4 and 5. This is how you build a habit. Start small. Don't try and meditate for half an hour. You're never going to be able to do that first off, okay? What other questions do we have? I'll try and review a few if there are any. If you could put them in again, and if you've written some and you're interested. A minimum amount of time. Yeah, so I sort of covered that. Ideally, when you're trying to start a habit, form a habit, you're trying to just keep it consistent. You're better off meditating for 2 minutes every day than saying, right, Saturday, I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes. It's like cleaning your teeth. If you clean your teeth once a week for half an hour, it's probably not going to be that beneficial for you compared to twice a day, 2 minutes. Okay, so try to think of it in those terms. When you're trying to build a habit, start a habit, sustain a habit, you're better off consistency trumps intensity. Okay. Is a habit created if you do it every day for at least 2 weeks? So I can't really answer that, but that's how you start a habit. I can't tell you how long it will take. I can't tell you how long it will take to start to build a habit. But what I can say is, if you start small and achieve a small goal, then it gives you confidence that I can do this. I can do this now, rather than trying to achieve something that's out of reach. Okay. Okay, so we might leave it there. If there's any other, I think there. So I saw that then. So this session was recorded, I believe. So if you're interested, please go back and watch it. Can the Saints win it next year? Of course we can. We're going to have to play a bit better than what we did this year. Do teenagers mostly have red brain? They actually do, because their brains are still developing. And it's good to remember that when you're dealing with your teenage kids, they do not have the decision-making capabilities that we do. Simply because the experience, sure, but their brains aren't as developed. Okay. Our brain's still developing till we're about 25. So correct. All right. So a bit of patience with your teenagers. I'll finish off with just this. Thank you for coming along. If you're a bit of a skeptic like me as a player, very normal place to start. Okay. But hopefully after today's session or previous sessions, it's just in your mind, okay, maybe there's a place for this skill for me. And if that's the case, I encourage you, just as a starting point, to download that app, Smiling Mind, to try a meditation practice, but at the very least, just try and get in your blue brain as often as possible and see how that works for you. All right. Good luck.